What's going on, everybody? How we doing? How we doing, everybody? Give me a second here. Pull up the chat. Sorry if I sound like I don't have a ton of energy tonight. I did, as some of you know from earlier today, I did have an oral procedure today, so I lacking a little bit of strength in the voice, but turn the mic volume up for you as well. So hopefully that helps too. But yeah, I mean, basically all we're going to do is we're going to talk about the current storm first, right? We still have a snowstorm that's going to happen, and a lot of people are going to get a pretty good snowstorm out of this, so can't disregard that. So that's the first thing we're going to go over. And right after that, I promise you, we will dive into just some opening thoughts on the potential for the Christmas Eve storm. So we'll look at that after. And again, it sounds like I'm a little quiet or don't have a lot of energy. Well, I did turn the mic volume up, so that should help. But if it sounds like I don't have a lot of energy, I promise it's not because I don't. It's just I can't project my voice as well as I want to right now. So, yep, we'll look at the big event after. Promise. So basically, models have continued to, as we expected, to undo the cold air damming. Just as we expected. Temps are relatively steady. They're on point at this point now. Some models are pretty caught up, but we do have. I'm gonna turn up the mic volume just in case a little bit more. I'm a little paranoid. A little bit more. Just a tad more. 10%. All right. Just so I don't have to worry about trying to keep raising my voice. But so you can see radar tonight. Pretty healthy. But we trended a little bit weaker with the low pressure system, which is actually a positive for people living in New England. Not the Hudson Valley though, because the Hudson Valley had a lot of cold air locked in. These folks had a lot of cold air locked in, and with heavier rates, what we're going to get is we're going to push heavier banding and more consolidated banding. We were going to press it into the cold air that we had locked in place in the Hudson Valley. But what that was doing in this stronger low pressure system also does though wrap in more warm air for southern New England. So if you notice, the trends start to become colder throughout the day. Oh, thanks. But if you notice, trends start to be colder. It's models figuring out cold air damming, figuring out the CAD signature where the cold air drops through, and then also a little bit our low pressure is trending a little bit weaker. So we've been able to not punch as much. Low level jet is a little bit weaker, so we're not going to filter in as much cold air from the south and east that we could have if we had a stronger low pressure. So that means a little less snow for these guys and into the Hudson Valley as well, but more snow potentially for, Berks was going to get hit regardless, but more snow for these folks here. All right. So because we're still going to get we're going to get a low 990s low pressure system in the Gulf of Maine, and we're going to get some really good banding into Maine tomorrow night, actually, believe it or not. Maine could actually be the winner. That's why on my snowfall map I had This is why I had Maine in the 14 to 22. I think I had something like that. Yeah, 14 to 22 plus. Um, I promise I'm going to discuss that. I promise I'm going to discuss that. I know a lot of people want to know. I mean, we already know what's happening here, kind of. Oh, well, I made a new one. Sorry, folks. I'm so detail oriented. I promise we're going to talk about that. We're going to get through this. We'll try to make sure we go through over all the details that need to be gone over for tonight's system for a lot of people. I mean, this is a legit snowstorm here. We're talking, widespread 10 to 20 inches of snow across central and eastern New England potentially, and across upstate New York too. So this is a legit snowstorm. So I just want to make sure we go over the snowstorm first, and I promise you we will go over the second part of the stream. We will go over the next week's system, and I will address your comment about Bernie too, because we disagree a little bit. I mean, I'm not one to have the pedigree to disagree and expect people to believe everything I say when it comes to Bernie. Obviously, Bernie's obviously one of the legends when it comes to winter weather Twitter, but I disagree a little bit. So we'll get into that. I promise. But first things first, I made a couple tweaks to the snow map. I have concerns with temps. I think snow ratios are going to struggle. I think we're still going to stay just as much snow as I thought we could have. I think it's panning out actually pretty nicely. But remember, wet snowflakes don't necessarily guarantee accumulation. And I really do think we're going to have some trouble in central Mass and into northern Mass potentially as well, where there's elevation, but not Berks in southern Vermont elevation. I think upstate New York will make out okay. If we do bust, it's probably not the 4 to 8. It's probably some of these 8 to 16 totals in here. If we do bust, that's probably where we'll bust. Yep, we'll go over that. I promise. I'm sure that's what everybody wants to know, but we'll go over that. We just got to go over this quickly. This won't be too long of a stream, so because I can't talk for hours and hours. But those are just a couple tweaks I made to the snow map based on my current thoughts. We're locking in cold air nicely. Radar is coming along right. You can see we're gonna have bands push through here and help get a little bit of dynamic cooling. And under those heavier bands will be your best shot to accumulate snow. So you'll cool the column, but also along with those heavy rates, some folks at time will be able to get into 3/4 inch and half per hour rates, and then if you're really lucky, you can get into some 2 to 3 inch per hour rates if you live in the Berks, southern Vermont, parts of upstate New York into Maine. Maine could be like 2 to 4 inch per hour rates too. I think they're gonna get a nice little special. Oh, you're talking about this storm. You are talking about this storm. Sorry, I was just assuming. Yeah, well, you got to remember when cold air damming takes place, elevation cools the higher, right? Because cold air damming travels down to the surface. It cools the surface, so it's going to attack those low-level areas first. But once it comes time for a transition, those elevated areas are going to be able to hold on to it just naturally. So I'm not too concerned, especially folks with elevation, about how this is going to play out. That being said, it wouldn't shock me if this completely busts and look like a little bit of an idiot, but hey, that's part of learning in life. If you haven't ever looked like an idiot, then you're not learning. So we'll see how it plays out. It's an interesting event. It's a really dynamic, it's a complex setup. It's a massive, right? This is an upper level low here, and we're relying on the surface low that's forming off this to the east, part of this massive, 1,200 mile wide upper low 1,500 mile wide. I mean, system here. This is very large system. So it's definitely been every storm has its unique characteristics and makes it very tricky to track. So, but this one definitely this one made me go back and forth a little bit more than I usually do. You know me. I usually don't make tweaks at the last second to my snowfall map, and if I'm doing that, that means I have uncertainty. I have confidence in what can happen, but I don't have complete confidence that everything's going to play out exactly how I think it is. That's almost never the case, but almost never the case to an extent, I guess I would phrase it, but especially with this system. Do we have any questions about tonight's system before I move on to the prize? Any questions about this system tonight? I mean, it seems I think the forecast is holding on pretty nice. Latest HRR even got even cooler. So some of these folks, take a look here. It's hard when you start going out of range with the HRR, but there's definitely some potential here. And then if we can hold up enough on the backside, maybe some places that started as rain and never saw snow could finish as snow across, southern New England as well. So I like the potential for Maine in this event in particular, but I think this is going to be a pretty good snowstorm for a lot of ski resorts, central New England, parts of northern Mass, western Mass, Catskills, upstate New York. Hudson Valley may bust a little bit here on this one, though. I don't know if we're going to get those 8 to 16s, but we'll see. I mean, they're snowing right now. We're going to get, let's see, 3, 4, 5, at least 5 hours of good snowfall. So hopefully we can get some of those 4 to 8s to verify. I mean, they might flirt back under heavier rates. So potentially another 6-7 hours of snow total for some folks in the Hudson Valley. We'll see how it plays out. And you don't ever trust the extended HRR. Yep. Eastern Mass, we have an east, we're transitioning from a east-southeast wind to a east-northeast wind. Sorry. But so we're at Eastern Mass, not the event, I'm sorry. And then once we transition to a northeast north wind, northeast wind, or is it no? Is there a northeast north? I'm sorry, I'm just a little late. Long day for me, but point is, when we get the winds out of the northeast, that's when maybe you can end at some flakes here, depending on your rates. Maybe a coating to an inch if you're lucky. I'm gonna wait for the Euro. No, well, I am gonna wait for the Euro, but Billy said he's gonna stream tonight, so got no problem letting him stream the Euro. I got plenty of people that can watch this back. My thoughts aren't gonna drastically waver from the Euro 8-9 days out. So, but yeah, any last second questions before about this event before we go over next week's potential? NXF WWX. Any last second questions about this event before we get to this one right here? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Okay. Let's do it. So, okay, what's going to happen here is going to direct, right? We have our, this is our current system moving through. What's going to happen is we're actually going to get, let's zoom this out here actually. Let's zoom this out. Yes, Billy's a great forecaster. First, I'll address actually your comment you had earlier about Bernie. I disagree. There's nothing wrong. I don't think there's really climatologically, late December, great time frame to get a snowstorm. That was his concern, is that we're in climatologically, it's not late January, February, but I don't. I mean, that climatologically, that'd be a concern if we were working with a half decent air mass. I don't understand why he's got a climatological concern. I mean, we're pulling in. You're going to see this upper level low here. Look where this originates, right? So this is, we have an upper level low pulling through. Follow this right here, right? This is coming from up near the Arctic, so it's pulling in a little bit of polar air. It's not directly, or maybe it is. Let's trace back. Not directly from the polar vortex, but we have, it is going to pull in some polar, you can see here, it's going to pull into the polar vortex, so it's going to pull in some Arctic air. This upper level low is. And as we follow this, it's going to track down. Right, so this is still the current system. It's a massive system. It's a thousand mile wide system, right? So we're going to pull. So it's this big time. Okay, we'll leave it on. So this, all right, this big time system. So it's going to take a couple days to move out. So I still would like to get this out of the way before we really jump to even some minor conclusions with this system. I think we can start to already, given the agreement. When you get agreement like this 8-9 days out with these big dynamic systems, there's typically there's something to it. There's something to it there. I think regardless, this is going to be a dynamic system somewhere, whether it's in the Canadian Maritimes or the interior Northeast. It's hard to narrow down exactly where this is going to happen, but I mean, based on the blocking we have in place, and based on how models are currently evolving the system. Again, this can change. I like where we sit, but remember, this is our upper level low that we pulled in. Yep. This is for the 23rd, 24th. So we're pretty far out, very far out. But I just want to go over it because it obviously has everyone's attention. It's Christmas. And I mean, this looks like something worth just talking about. I mean, we're going to continue to go much farther in depth, but we can lay groundwork. We can easily lay groundwork on systems like this. It's not a problem. All right, so this is originating up here, right? A little bit of polar vortex, or pulling some Arctic air into this upper level low. It's tracking across. So we're going to filter in, not warm, cold air in place. So we're going to have cold air in place out ahead of this. Really cold air too. Regardless of what happens, it's going to get really cold, folks, Christmas time. You are not going to have a warm Christmas. I'm telling you that right now. And if it does snow, not going to melt. This is going to stay around. Cold air we have in place. For some reason, we're skipping around. I mean, I can go to the last run, and we're still gonna. I can still show you what I want to show you. All right, cold air in place. We're gonna have cold, and then on the back side, we're gonna have cold air in place too. Since it's a dynamic system, it's gonna wrap in cold air from the back side as well. So, I think what we can look at right now is we have a dynamic system. I think we very much are going to have a dynamic system on the table, a very dynamic system, and we're going to have cold air in place before and on the backside of the vent, as usual when we get systems. Keep using the word dynamic, but it's true. So cold air, not a problem with this one. If I-95 doesn't see snow with this one, it's not going to be because it wasn't cold enough. It's going to be because of the track with this system. But what's going to happen is, right, so we're diving in. It's not, for me, I don't look at this and say this is just a full-on classic Miller A. It's pretty close, but it's not full-on classic, because if you look, subtropical jet, we have a little bit of vorticity kicking off the Pacific, so it's energizing. Our strong northern wave. That's what's up, John. It's energizing our northern wave that's coming in. Really strong northern wave that's coming in off the northwest Pacific. But we're also going to have a little bit of vorticity that's going to be coming off the southwest Pacific. We're having energy. Remember, when we have two pieces of energy meet, that's when we start to see stream interaction. So it's a little bit, we're going to help enhance this, but as you can see, it's not like we have one piece here that's waiting to meet another piece here. That's not, so it's not really a Miller B either. I would say it's definitely much more Miller A than Miller B for sure. But it's not a true Miller A single piece just traveling across the country. It's not that kind of system. But it's also not a two-part phase kind of system. So I don't want to get you confused, but when you hear the terms Miller A, Miller B thrown around, I just don't want you to immediately jump to conclusions that may not be true, because a lot of people throw in a lot of different stuff. Again, we're too far out to discuss specifics. I mean, I'm still trying to figure out how much snow we're going to see tonight. I can't even tell you the exact numbers for tonight. So, I know it wasn't that specific, but we're still a little too far out to discuss that. But what we always look for with these systems, the depth of the trough, how broad is our trough, those will all play factors. The broader our trough, the more we'll take to amplify, and there's a better chance. The broader the trough, the more coastal or even out to sea this gets. The more we amplify, the more depth we create, and the more we amplify our trough, the more we'll increase our chances for an only interior snow threat. So, and again, we can still amplify this a lot and still get an I-95 snowstorm out of this and an interior snowstorm. So I don't want you to think that it's either or necessarily when I'm discussing that. I'm just telling you the broadness of the trough, strength of the trough, obviously, right? How deep or how broad the trough is are going to play factors. You can kind of see some of the differences in some of those runs. Notice the GFS had a much broader trough here, so it was kind of a scraper, and it was only coastal threat. On this particular run, right? In the upper level low, right? So we focused primarily on here. We had a broader trough, more strung out vorticity compared to. I discussed that earlier, John. Yeah. If you want to replay that after, you can. I disagree a little bit about what he was saying climatologically. But you guys' opinions, he thinks the windshield wiper effect is going to take into place, but I mean, it's difficult to know exactly what you were working with from the beginning here when we're 9 or 10 days out, but we'll see. So yeah, but I mean, you can see here, this is a really, even depending on the broadness of the trough, we're still, right, we're going to be filtering in Arctic air here, regardless of how broad we are at the base of our trough. We're still going to be filtering some really good polar Arctic air. I mean, I don't know. We'll see. I mean, it's not like Bernie said one scenario is only going to happen. He said he just thinks that's what's going to think. He's making a bold forecast far out. He's trying to use his forecaster's intuition to try to make a forecast. So, you can't really blame the guy. He's just trying to do the best he can based on what he knows. So you can't really blame the guy. But I mean, it's here across all models. Canadian, it's very present here too. Canadian's a little bit more of an interior threat on this one. But again, I would say even if we do have an interior threat, we're gonna have cold air locked into place. So for coastal I think regardless of where you live, even if you live on coastal sections, I mean, this is really specific detail, but I think people are going to have a chance for an inland thump, or sorry, front end thump. I think people are going to have. You think Central New Jersey is going to get 8+? I mean, dude, we're so far out. I don't think this is going to be a cutter. I don't think this is going to be a cutter. I think we have good enough block in place for this to be a cutter. I will say it is dynamic enough of a system to maybe have some more influence than we would look at in the previous system with our high pressure. So it may be able to budge that high pressure out of the way a little bit easier, but at the same time, we do have a pretty strong block in place here. So. But we'll take a look at the Euro from earlier today as well. I mean, we have pretty model consensus. We'll take a look at the ensembles in a second too. Won't stay on too much longer, and then we'll get off. Right as the Euro is coming out. I realized I was blocking my mouth with my hand, but play this out. Euro, same thing. Euro is a little bit more questionable. I do agree, kind of. With what Bernie was talking about to an extent, but also, I mean, you got the tail end left of this system. It's going to be hard to amplify this right into here. So we're not going to cut it that far. We're not going to cut this, right? This is still dropping in at this point. So we're not going to amplify this here. I mean, the farthest we can go with our upper level low probably on this system is, we're going to drop this here. It's going to come around. And then if it did amplify like we're supposed to, maybe here. But even if we put the upper level low like over the Hudson Valley in this kind of storm, you're going to get a big time front end thump across all these areas here out ahead because we have cold air locked in. GFS has been pretty consistent. GFS has been by far the best model this winter. I can't lie. I think we still got to worry about. It hasn't had to deal with a system like this yet, where it's really going to test its convec issues. And even then, the GFS still has some convective feedback issues. This event, it was right for the wrong reasons. It had a weaker low pressure system, more strung out low pressure system, but because of convective feedback issues, instead of actually getting the strength of the low pressure right. So it was kind of right for the wrong reasons. But it was still, can't deny it. GFS has been off to a strong start this winter for sure. That doesn't mean we still don't hold weight on the other models. Every system is different, and if you just stay engaged to select a view of models, then you're not looking at different perspectives. That being said, it's not like you got to put weight on the icon or something, or immediately anoint the Canadian the best model, but you gotta know what you're working with. Bernie's a confident guy. Bernie's a confident guy. He believes he's probably got more total experience of forecasting winter storms than half the people in here. Just combined. So, he's got a lot of experience. You gotta have a little bit of ego when you're pretty good at what you do, and when you believe in something, you gotta have a little bit of ego in what you're doing. So, if I believe in something, but if I don't express confidence in that, then what is that going to get you to do to believe me? And he said it. He's not even 100% sure yet. That's just what he thinks at the moment. So you gotta, and it's not like he didn't say this couldn't be. Can't get an upper level low to track. Just off the coast. He didn't say that. He just said what he thought. When we're 8 to 9 days out. So there's still a lot that can happen, and I don't think you should be going all in on one person or or one model, etc. When we're 9 days out. Not trying to take anything away from Bernie because he's great at what he does, but just want to make it clear that yeah, some people get it wrong. Give me 1 second. Misses his judgment. Yeah, I mean, not everybody's going to get it perfect all the time. Not everybody's going to get it perfect. I mean, it's not like a line to pick the Celtics to win the championship or something, but we're not going to like fade it. But you just account for what he says, and then what you do is you see over time how it develops, and maybe he'll be right, maybe he'll be wrong. We'll see. One thing I do disagree with, though, completely is this is not going to be a cutter. I really don't think this is going to be a cutter. We talked about this in the pattern. I don't think there's a lot really to support cutter right now. So I will disagree with that. Completely disagree with that at the moment. Not out of disrespect or anything, just in my opinion. But the euro, euro is a little suspect too. Just in terms of specifically how it was the evolution of the upper level low. But those are such specific details that we don't even need to dive in so far out. But we look at the Jeffs here. I mean, come on. That's a really good. Are you kidding? We're getting a 8-day mean. 7.5, 8-day mean of this kind of trough setup. Are you kidding me? You can't ask. You can't ask for much better. You can't. If that's your 8-day mean, clearly pulling in the Arctic air in a trough setup like this. And remember, this is a mean of every single, how many models the GFS has, like 20 or 30, however many ensemble members it has. It's a really good mean. That's a really good mean. I see a mean like this, 7.5, 8 days out. Extremely intrigued. I was intrigued to begin with, but this just, builds more confidence. Again, guys, I would hold off on putting totals out there yet. There's just so many specific pieces to the puzzle we have to put together that we haven't yet. Yeah, I mean, we'll have something to track next week for sure. $40 inches guaranteed. I don't know about that. John. I would take a 40-incher, though. I would take a 40-inch snowstorm for sure. What day? We're going to have a pretty good idea. Get like a time light. Rain. I mean, it's been drizzling here all day, Ryan. It's been drizzling all day. We've had ocean effect rain like all day. I wasn't expecting to snow under like the lighter rates we have been. So, but timing wise, I think on Monday we'll know if we definitely have something on the table to track. And I'd say by Wednesday we'll start to hone in on exactly where. And then after that, we'll start probably trying to pinpoint specific details and stuff, all the good stuff, snowfall totals and all that stuff, if it progresses like how we want it to be. I mean, if you get something this dynamic and you get a big time upper level low to close off, you're going to slow the system down. When you amplify systems and you have really deep troughs, you're going to amplify storms and you're going to slow it down. So where am I located? I live in on the edge of central and eastern Mass. So I live in actually a really good spot for snowstorms because I get into those big old coastal systems. I can also get into the interior vents because I don't have a lot of elevation. I have like 500-600 feet of elevation, but that's a lot more than Eastern Mass. And I also live pretty close to Worcester, Mass, so I can get into some of those interior events. Where go from snow to mix to rain. I can make out pretty well in those. January 2016. This is not going to be a January 2016 kind of event. Different setup. This is not unless the upper level low came in, the only way we could suppress this is if the upper level low comes in much more farther south than what's currently forecasted. But this is not going to be. We're too wavy with the jet stream. There's too much depth to the trough with this system to be a complete suppressed storm. We don't work together. I just have a great deal of respect from him. I'm not sure he learned things from me exactly. He's pretty skilled already, but he knows what he's talking about. I've learned things from him. I pulled all different pieces of information from everybody. I just happen to pull a lot of information from him. I learn, get better over the years. I've been forecasting for years now. I'd say I've been forecasting well for not a long time, but I have been forecasting and trying to learn. The more you forecast, the more you learn about your forecast, where you need to improve, get better. And I've worked at it. I don't know any of you that were following me over the summer and in the fall, but we did a lot of reanalysis streams because I did a lot of research on a lot of past storms in recent years. So I tried to make sure that I improved. So I improved my stream setup for this winter. We added some different things to the arsenal, and we're trying to, for storms, if this one progresses how it could, for storms like these next week, those are the ones this pays off, and you just get all different kinds of new people interact and come in. We talked about weather bill. Jesus Christ. But yeah, so I it's not my livelihood. It's a hobby. I have other things that I do in my life as well. But yeah. Yeah, Billy's a goat for sure. Miller, again, we talked about it. It's not a classic Miller A setup. And I say that because of, it's harder to see on the ensembles, but there's a little bit of energy coming off the subtropical jet, a little bit of vorticity. So it is going to help enhance. So it won't be a classic Miller A. But again, we're so far out, so I don't want to jump to any ridiculous conclusions. Do 198 divided by 6. I get to, what does that get you to? Almost 40, 30 something, 30, 40 something model runs still left to go, 35, 40 model runs. So we're pretty far out. So I put that in perspective. It's a long way to go. There's a long way to go with this system. Just make sure. I don't want to interact. I do a good job of trying to make sure I do not interact with his lives. There we go. There we go. Still hasn't gone live yet, so that's good. What was that? Are you trying to get a meteorology degree? Potentially. Potentially. I have things in my life that I want to pursue potentially alongside first. I have different priorities, but we'll see. All of this is just self-taught and learned from others. So just over the years, I've gathered more and more information now, and I just added what I could to try to be the best forecaster I can. Yeah, and you got to remember too. Let's go over a couple of the things you're probably going to see. I'm going to warn you ahead of this. I've seen enough of these now to tell you. Different things you're going to see. Convective feedback issues. Where convective... We still got more time. Yeah, we got plenty. Convective feedback issues where it struggles to consolidate vorticity and convection that gets pushed out to the east, and instead of consolidating into the trough more, it tries to shunt it and pushes out convection out to sea, and instead of amplifying the trough or amplifying somewhat more, consolidating the energy. Models like to sometimes create double barrelish looks when it's not really double barrelish, kind of like what the GFS did with some of its runs before this event. So I be on the lookout for that. The windshield wiper event, Barney's banking on that for his forecast, like we talked about, which is fine. 9 days out, it's no harm at this point. We'll get a better view as we get closer, but just because model runs trend out, and sometimes windshield wiper events are caused just directly from misforecasting excess convection. So sometimes the troughs get pushed out to sea more, and then they overcorrect and they bring it farther back west, and then really what happens is it just ends up in the middle. So all these models go back and forth. And they make all these different adjustments. I missed that last comment. Gonna cry if it ends up being inland track. We'll see. There's different. This is not set in stone, one bit whatsoever. We're not close. We're not close to having a final solution set in stone yet. Other things we'll see too. We'll have to track is, again, this is going to be key. Is the placement of this upper level low right here, right? So it's just upper level low. It doesn't. We're not pulling in a lot of moisture into this. So, but what it is going to do, it's going to funnel in cold air like we talked about. And because this is going to get ingested with some polar Arctic air really far north. This is going to pull in Arctic air. So as this upper level low comes down, it's going to set up and it's going to provide our cold air. It's going to lock our cold air into place out ahead of this event, regardless of where it tracks. And from there, our cold air is in place. And then it drops in, and then wherever it amplifies, I don't think it's going to amplify that much. It could, but I don't think so. At least that's just my opinion. Wherever it amplifies, if it drops in here, or if it drops in here, wherever it amplifies. I would say these are probably somewhere within that range. If you put a gun to my head, I would say somewhere in that range. I would bet. Being the upper level low track, but we're still so far out. See, we don't want to overlap. Just double checking this. He hasn't streamed yet. He hasn't. He may be just be waiting out of respect to me too right now. So he's pretty good with that as well with other people. What else? What other questions we got? We'll hop off here in a few minutes. Why do we do video so late? Because I'm a night timer. That's just I'm like a gremlin. I stay up late, and that's just what I do. A lot of times I'm watching sports, at night, and then after I'm done watching sports, and then we'll do streams. Just how I operate. I got more of a life than just this. I would love to stream at multiple times a day during the day, but what you do. Got to try to give myself time to enjoy my life as well. So if I'm just constantly abiding to everyone else, I'm not living my life the best I can. So I try to enjoy my life while also trying to provide hopefully some good insight and analysis for all the folks, because I say this time and time again, I'm doing this anyway. So a lot of times talking my thoughts out and to you guys helps me understand the systems better as well. So sometimes these streams make me look at different angles, stuff I wouldn't have seen before, interacting. Sometimes you guys comments spark inspiration for me to look at different things in parts of systems. So how many days until we start getting into details? I went over that earlier, so you can play it back as well. But briefly, I'll say I think we'll know for sure if we have some limited track by the start of next week, Monday, and then we'll start figuring out exactly where, probably by Wednesday, and then from there, after that point, we can start to hone in on details. The same as every event. Kind of. Anything else? What else we got? Again, for people that came in late, you can replay the stream as well. But I still can go for a few more minutes, no problem. Whatever questions you guys got. I can't tell you how much snowfall you're going to see, but I can break down what I know about the system right now. That's all I can do. I mean, I just told you, I can't tell you specific areas. I mean, really anywhere. If we're going to highlight somewhere, I think this is the area that I would be looking at. I'd say this is probably where we want to look at for our snow threat next week. Yes, will be for sure. As it started. Hop off in a second here. As long as he's still streaming, which I'm sure he will. He may just be being respectful to me right now too. So, and I'm just babbling on here. But if it's more of an inland track, how would Mid-Atlantic? I mean, yeah. But we gotta remember, John, when he starts, let me know. I would appreciate that. But remember, regardless of where the track is, I think, I can identify this early with the cold air in place. We'll get before the upper level low consolidates. We'll be good. Wrapping in moisture from the south, we'll be pulling it northward, and we got cold air in place. We're gonna get a front end thump regardless of where this hits, we're going to get a front end thump out in front. Thanks, John. Wherever this hits. So I think we're going to be able to, regardless of how this sets up, I think, regardless, I think a lot of people are going to be able to pull in snow, even if you do mix. I think this is the best, for all the systems we've been looking at 7-8 days out. I would say this is the best setup we've had so far, and a setup that could have the highest ceiling as well. I wouldn't focus on the National Weather Service. Those graphics, I mean, they're not they're doing their best, but it's so hard to be able to so far out to those graphics. I wouldn't hold too much money or weight onto those things. So I wouldn't be too worried about what some of those National Weather Service graphics say so far out. Their forecast discussions, though, I would look, if you're curious about the synoptics, and they'll summarize too. So, but I think the forecast discussions are great because you actually hear the meteorologist's thoughts and not just the graphic maps. If I just posted snow maps every single time and didn't release any of my thoughts, well, everyone does it based on model runs, but if I just put a snow map out and didn't talk about any of my thoughts, you'd be confused why I have what I have. So those forecasters discussions are actually pretty useful to pinpoint. I'm sure I think the weather prediction, so, but yeah. What else we got? Of course, I love doing this. I mean, again, I look at the Euro a little bit more, but I mean, we look at this. I mean, I see that and I go, yes, please. I mean, that's beautiful ensemble mean. 12, sorry, not 12 days out. It's from 12Z, but I don't think so. I don't know if I'm going to stay up. I may wake up in the morning to see if we're going to bust or if we're going to get it. But yeah, basically it's a good baby steps, Ashan. What we go is we see, all right, well, can we get this to stay around for 5 days? And then once we get in the 5-day range, all right, can we sweet spot here? And when I mean sweet spot, not necessarily see the death band and set up right in the death band, but can we be in that general sweet spot area? And then as we get closer to the event, then you're trying to pinpoint the jackpot. Try to figure out if you're going to get into it. So that's kind of how from the snow lover perspective, that's kind of how I view it. And then as a forecaster, it's similar, but you put your biases aside and then try to figure out. Obviously, you want to see the snow, but try to put your biases aside a little bit, and pinpoint where you think the heaviest snow is going to fall, the track, the setup, all those good stuff. So. Yeah. Any more questions? Canadian, a little bit more uncertainty, but same thing. with the ensembles. I mean, this is 12Z2. U0Z hasn't came out yet, but yeah. So in terms of streaming, as long as you guys don't have any more questions, I'll say when it comes to streaming, we'll do try to do every night. Actually, I don't know about tomorrow night. We'll see tomorrow night. If I have nothing to do and there's, just ridiculous consistency, then maybe we start tracking early. But Euro did start loading, but we won't stay out for the whole Euro. It's until a half hour before before that run finishes at least. But we'll stream. We'll be streaming like every night, especially once we get to Monday, and assuming we still have a system to track. I think we will. We'll be streaming every night, probably from that point. So I'll be active on Twitter. I stream to YouTube and Twitter, whichever one you find more accessible for you to be able to get the best viewing experience you want. I know some of you like to multitask, so maybe watch a stream and put it in the split screen and do your own little thing, whatever you got to do. But whatever you got to do. I'll be here, so I'll be posting on Twitter. First, I'll try to figure out how much snow I'm getting tonight, and then yeah, we'll try to figure out the pieces to this one. Try to figure out the pieces for this one for sure. Yeah, that's all I got. I appreciate everyone that came in, and I look forward to hopefully doing a lot more of these. Hopefully we have something that we'll be able to continue to track. I think we will, but you never really know this far out. So, yeah, appreciate it. Hopefully y'all enjoy the Christmas music. We'll do a little jazz, and we'll do a little some actual Christmas songs too. We'll go back and forth. But yeah, thanks everyone. Go hop into Billy's stream if he does one. I think he's gonna do one pretty soon. So go hop into his stream.